Mauritius depends on public transport. Every single day, tens of thousands of Mauritians entrust their safety to buses, taxis, and light rail systems. Not as luxuries, but as lifelines. And now let me take you halfway across the world to Charlotte, North Carolina, USA, and to a young woman named Iryna Zarutska. Iryna was just 23 years old when she fled Ukraine in 2022 with a family seeking safety and a new beginning in Charlotte. She worked at a pizzeria wearing her work uniform as she boarded a train one quiet evening, just minding her own business, heading home from her shift. Back in Kiev, she earned an art and restoration degree, and she dreamed of becoming a veterinary assistant. It was August 22, 2025, just before 10 p.m., and Iryna boarded the train and took an aisle seat directly in front of a man she didn't know, DeCarlos Brown Jr. Surveillance footage shows that with no warning or interaction, Brown drew a pocket knife from his hoodie, unfolded it, and stabbed Iryna tragically in the neck. The whole attack lasted mere seconds. She collapsed and she died. All of this unfolded in front of the other passengers. And don't get me started on how they didn't get up to help. I mean, if you've been following social media, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Brown had 14 prior arrests, charges including robbery, burglary, assault, and even misuse of 911. And mental illness reportedly played a role in his repeated releases, and yet he was still walking the streets on that night. Of course, he was later arrested. Iryna's dream of a peaceful, purposeful life was snatched away in a single, senseless act. She came seeking refuge, and of course, that was stolen from all of us. America failed Iryna, the system that should have protected her. Public safety, mental health support, transit security, all of that failed her. And if we come back to Mauritius, here in Mauritius, we should not be complacent. We cannot look at this and think, that is their problem. Because of failure here, ignoring safety complaints, trivializing fare evasion, cutting corners on security begins exactly the same way. We've had many incidents on our public infrastructure, ranging from assaults on bus conductors and sexual harassment of women. And of course, allow me to say that the police constable, Karamben, and when his positive actions in this country, just by doing a simple act of handing a girl a piece of paper saying papier mola, is exactly what we need. We need more people like him. And in my opinion, he's a real life superhero. And also, we must build a system rooted in dignity, in accountability, and in trust. When a parent sends their child onto a bus, a train, a taxi, they should know that their child will come home alive. Let Iryna's face, her dreams, her story serve as a warning and not as a prophecy. And Mauritius, let's not wait for tragedy to strike. Let's safeguard our public transport. Let's demand transparency, stronger safety protocols, mental health support, real enforcement, and not excuses. We cannot fail our own. I really don't make this kind of content, but I need to say this because I think it's just, one bigger than one story. Our society, this society, I think it needs to be better equipped to deal with, mental health. To recognize it and to talk about it and create spaces where people who are struggling can come forward without shame. Because too often, what we call a random act of violence is just really years of untreated pain, untreated illness, and untreated anger. And if you're struggling, if you're carrying darkness inside, you don't have to do it alone. Reach out, talk to someone you trust. Talk to me if you have to, but don't just let silence turn into tragedy. And here's the truth, nowhere feels safe anymore. Everywhere I go, just like in the military, as they say, I'm checking my six, I'm keeping my head on a swivel, my back to the wall. My eyes are always on the exits. And that's not freedom. That is survival, and survival is not enough. And look at a guy like, Charlie Kirk, a man with sharp, often unpopular opinions. You didn't even have to agree with him, but he was a human being, and he was killed. Is this what we've come to? That, disagreement is answered with blood? That words are met with weapons? Yeah, and when you zoom out, it's not just individuals, it's whole populations. Look at Gaza. Look what's happening there. Families, children, ordinary people trapped between politics and violence, paying the ultimate price. They're not hashtags, they're not headlines, guys. They're human lives. I think human lives have meaning, it has a value. And as an entertainer, as an actor, I try to stay positive and happy. But sometimes these things get to you on a deep emotional level. Whether it's Iryna on a train, Charlie in America, or children in Gaza, the principle is the same. Life must mean something. Humanity must mean something. Otherwise, we are lost. And I think it's very unfair. Like, we are getting categorized these days. I can't do that because I'm supporting that thing. I can't eat a specific product or specific food, because I'm supporting the other thing. I give you a weird glance, and apparently it's bigotry, it's racism. Everything is becoming measured by whose side an individual is on, by whose side a political party I'm supporting. And there's no longer, unconditional love, anymore. But yeah, anyway, this video was very exhausting to make, but if you like this kind of video and you like this kind of content, please let me know, because at the end of the day, this isn't stuff I really want to do. I'm trying to keep it more lively, motivational content, entertaining, but anyways, if you enjoyed this, let me know. But again, we deserve better and we must do better. And remember, I love every single one of you. Remember, my name is Adnan Jigu, and I'm a man on a mission.